Hey familia, Igni here. Last week I asked you to design a custom Shadowverse card that reacts to something your opponent does on their turn. Let's see what you came up with. If I sound a little out of it today, that's because I did karaoke yesterday.
I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way.
But the show must go on. First up, we have a card by Ferren Silver, Surprise Recruitment, 4-play point Amulet for Swordcraft. The next time Invocation is activated for your opponent, if it's a follower, bring them to your side instead. Like, this is particularly a good hate card against, you know, a certain 0-play point 5/3. His name starts with an F. We don't talk about him around here. And I like the idea of this card because I think that Invocation should have some counterplay. Like, how else are you going to deal with that kind of thing? Even though this is a 4-play point amulet that isn't very good on tempo in a tempo class like Sword, at least there's an option for you to do something against Invocation now, right? Like, it's important to give the players these tools to actually feel like they can change the outcome of matches. I do find it funny, though, that it's given to Sword here, where they already have Octress, which is a pretty good counterplay to Floros. Oh, I said his name. But you know, in the future, I'd actually like to see something like this make it into the game. Really cool card by Drenzen here. Well-engineered trap. Portalcraft 1-play point amulet. This amulet is invisible to the opponent, but still takes up board space. Any play points used to play this card will not be seen by the opponent. When an enemy follower attacks an ally, destroy this amulet. Last words, if the enemy that destroyed this amulet had 2 or less attack, destroy that enemy follower. If the enemy follower had more than 2 attack, its attack does not deal damage or activate effects. I kind of just don't have much to say about this card other than that it's really cool and I love it. The fact that it's secret to your opponent is freaking awesome and really encapsulates the whole trap idea I was going for when I first posed this challenge, and it provides meaningful counterplay that isn't overpowered. Agent Gaming with a new mechanic called Ploy. Similar to Fate Spinner in Hearthstone, you choose the effect when you play the card, but your opponent doesn't find out until it actually activates. And he made one for each class, and they're all pretty cool, so I encourage you to check them out. But here's one as an example here from Shadowcraft. Curse of the Risen, 3-play point amulet. When an enemy follower destroys an allied follower by attacking and you have at least 2 shadows, Necromancy 2, activate Ploy. Choose an effect, summon the allied follower that was destroyed. Transform the affected enemy follower into a skeleton. This is super flavorful for Shadowcraft in particular. Either you're raising the dead that just got killed, like you're zombifying it, or you're cursing the attacker into, you know, becoming a spooky bag of bones. The amount of design space this kind of mechanic opens up for the game is just amazing, and the decision trees in each match also open up. You're trying to outplay your opponent, but they're trying to play around your card so that you get the least benefit. And there's a lot of mind games going on in here as well, and your opponent has to make an educated guess, and you have to make an educated guess on the behavior of your opponent at the same time, and what cards they could use to try and play around Curse of the Risen or any of these other ploy cards. It's just awesome. Neko here with still awaiting more Snake support. Alright guys, take a drink. It's time for the obligatory Snake support card every single week on CCW. What is it this time? Typhon Chaos Viper. Bloodcraft Legendary, 7.44, Ward Fanfare, give your leader the following effect. Whenever the opponent plays a 3-play point or less follower, summon a serpent for both players. That's pretty cool because you get to attack with your serpents first, right? Because it's summoned on their turn, and then your serpents get to attack into their thing, so you can trade your serpents off, or you could buff them, like give token blood, zoo blood a bit more support, and that could be a thing. Or you could, you know, use these 1-damage wipes like Jormungand to clear their serpents while you can maintain a healthy board advantage. So I think that Token Blood is an interesting archetype that could happen. I mean, we already have bats, right? Why not add snakes into the mix? Here's a card by Dark Alexi. Electrostatic Shield, Portalcraft 3-play point amulet. Whenever your leader takes damage, reduce it by 2 and deal the original damage back to all enemy followers, then destroy this amulet. If Resonance is active for you, reduce the damage to 0 and deal the original damage back to the enemy leader instead. That's really cool because it's on your opponent to try and play around this when you're not in Resonance, or when you are in Resonance, depending on what's most beneficial for them at the time. But it can really make their plays awkward if they want to attack your leader, but they just can't. I think the non-Resonance part of this card is way strong in the early game, and the Resonance is less so. And then later on, as the game progresses, the roles there switch. This card has an interesting dynamism depending on when you play it and when it's activated in the game. Custom card Alice with Amia, Lone Puppeteer, 5-play point 1 for Ambush. Fanfare, put 5 copies of Little Doll into your deck. Whenever an allied Little Doll comes into play, deal 1 damage to this follower and 1 damage to the enemy later. And the Little Doll itself is what the trap component of this card is. Fanfare, gain +1/+0 in Storm, but Invocation. Whenever an enemy follower comes into play, if there is an allied Amiya Lone Puppeteer in play, put a Little Doll into play and give it Ward. That I like a lot. So it has dual purpose here. It's either these chip damages that you can do to your opponent over time as you draw them, or it's freaking Kuriboh, but anime version. Wait, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an anime. Even more anime. Asbear, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but this has nothing to do with CCW trap cards, and it's also a My Little Pony OC, so I'm not really sure how to react to this. Here's a card from Kenta for Dragoncraft, Dragon Shaman. When your opponent destroys one of your followers, destroy this amulet, restore X defense to your leader, X equals the original defense of the destroyed card. Heck yeah, man, some more defensive tools for Dragon. I feel like we've been really going on the offensive lately. What happened to the days of Sybil and Fervor and Oro? Well, they're gone. I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. But I feel like the class could use a little bit more defense restoration in general. Games feel like they go too fast nowadays, right? Drenzen already submitted a card, but I guess he had to come back for the meme. Lionel, Cursed Elf Prince, Forestcraft Legendary, 5play.24. Invocation, if your opponent destroyed an allied follower in their turn and there are at least 5 destroyed allied fairies, put a Lionel Cursed Elf Prince from your deck into play at the start of your turn. Ward, can't be targeted by enemy spells and effects. At the end of your turn, randomly destroy one of the lowest cost allied followers in play and gain +2/+2. I like this card a lot because it touches on some themes that Forestcraft hasn't really explored a whole lot that they've dabbled in. One being, you know, fairy destruction, seen in cards like Fairy Dragon and Burst Shot. And the other one being this whole Lone Ranger thing that they really only explored in one card, being Demon Child Zane, or whatever it's called. And it's things that Forestcraft feels like it could expand in the direction of. Good defensive card, and again, I do like defensive cards. Let's make the games go a little bit longer than turn 7, please. And the idea here that Lionel has been corrupted and is now destroying fairies to gain strength himself, it's cool and it's synergistic with the class in a way that we haven't seen before. Good job, Lanera. I really should have seen this coming when I asked for submissions for CCW Trap. I played myself. Hugo Rio with my boy, Goblin Slayer himself. 4play.34. Invocation, whenever your opponent summon a follower with Goblin in its name and there is no Goblin Slayer on your board, put a Goblin Slayer from the deck into play. Gain Bane on Clash until the end of the turn if the enemy follower has Goblin in its name. Well, the effect is thematic. Unfortunately, it does work against Lucius and against Tina, who is not goblins, so he probably wouldn't want to kill those guys. But the invocation for this is pretty much perfect for a Goblin Slayer card. I still haven't seen the anime. Like, I love the manga and the light novel, but I barely have any time anymore to watch anime. Rip. And finally, we have one from Admiral Riff here, Rulebreaker. Shadowcraft, 3 point amulet, countdown 2, fanfare enhance 5, gain, can't be destroyed by spells and effects, remove this amulet's countdown. Whenever your opponent would gain a leader effect, give that effect to your leader instead, then banish this amulet. Wow, that's a lot of fun, right? It's tough because it's hard to find the room to play this because it costs a lot and it doesn't do anything on the board. But again, it's really great to have these ways to play against leader effects because there is none right now in the game. And this is a really cool way to do it that's not just, you know, remove it from your opponent for a certain cost. You actually steal it, which is kind of cool. Which makes me think that this should be in Sword, but, you know, Shadowcraft, sure, why not? 5 is a really hefty cost to play for this situational card, though. I think it'd be a cooler card if it was quite a bit cheaper. That's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for submitting to CCW Trap. I encourage you to check out all the other cards that were posted. There's a lot more than I could cover in one video. On Twitter, hashtag CCW Trap to check them all out. But you're at the end of the video, and you know what that means. It's time to give the next challenge! And since we're getting real close to the end of Spooktober here, approaching the Halloweenies itself, I thought it'd be thematic to ask you guys to design a custom Shadowverse card based around a classic horror monster. I'm talking your Draculas, your vampires, your werewolves, your Frankensteins, your creatures from the Black Lagoon. Tweet at me on Twitter, at Ignideus LP, using the hashtag CCWHorror to submit your card, and for a chance to make it on next week's Custom Card Weekly. That's it for this video though. Like it if you did, Don't, if you didn't, subscribe for more Shadowverse content in the very near future. And of course, thank you to my wonderful patrons, patreon.com/Ignideus if you'd like to support the channel as well. I would highly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.